Hey everyone. Happy whatever day it is to you. When I'm in the book, I promise there's a point to telling this story. It's going to be a tangent, which is what this is going to be about. Um, but this tangent has a purpose. In book one, part one, there's this analogy that I use about a load-bearing beam, and in the book itself, I don't feel like I completed. There's not whole. The analogy isn't whole, and that's okay. That's actually I can't go further in the book because it would take away something, the essence of the analogy, and I move on, makes that paragraph in the book stronger. But in my heart, in my spirit, I didn't feel like I completed the analogy. Like I'm rearing it and I just left off some of its anatomy. And so here in this journal, I reuse the analogy. So I teach, and there's rarely, but sometimes you can do like post-semester remediation, where there's some extra work to be done, so the course is complete. And that's what I did to the analogy. But the reason I bring it up, this is why this is not really a tangent, is when you get to that point, when I get to that point, when I'm reading that point out loud, the grammar is just the tiniest bit weird. It should say, um, need to be load-bearing beams. And I say needs to be a load-bearing beam. And I wouldn't say it any other way, even if the grammar were even weirder than that, because of the cadence. When you say, you'll hear when I read it how the cadence works. But also the shape of the sentence, that sort of length, where it ends on the page. So it's the position of the sentence, how it's written. But then the sort of poetry and the pronunciation it can't be written any other way. So forgive the, tiniest little grammatical awkward. Let me just get to, I'm going to read. Um, Journal 69, Saturday, January 13th, 2024, The Fine Art of Tangentry in Fantasy Literature. Hi, everyone. When I was younger and I was watching a show, a movie, I would say things like, okay, that was sort of a cool scene, but what did it have to do with the story? Then, year after year, stories became leaner and leaner. Writers and editors were trimming plot fat wherever it could be found. And at some point, I realized it had been a couple of years since I last uttered that old go-to criticism, and I began to miss it. When stories get that sinewy, they lack humanity to me, because that's not how we experience life. Just as a good steak needs some marbling, a good story needs some immaterial tangents. Not every sentence and scene needs to be a load-bearing beam. It's difficult to build a pretty house that way, difficulter to build a pretty story. Strip malls may be ideal for function, but they have no character. I prefer the kind of architecture that sacrifices practicality to make room for soul. The kind that greets you with ornamental trim and spandrels, maybe some stained glass or a bay window, extravagant columns bearing no load, decorative eave brackets bracing nothing. Look up and you see turrets and ornate gables topped with pointless finials. Every feature that distinguishes this majestic palace from a strip mall is the architectural equivalent of a tangent, which is the only thing that makes the built environment beautiful. But tangentry is a delicate art. I have seen some ugly houses. I have also read some ugly stories. For a work of literature to be beautiful, its narrative tangents must be masterfully done. And this is what fantasy does best. Every detail about the world and the characters who inhabit it seems tangential during the initial encounter. Other than its elegant phrasing, it doesn't stand out as important. That was a nice paragraph, but what did it have to do with the story? A reader would be forgiven for wondering. Then they read a few more chapters and realize that some of those seeming tangents, maybe have, foreshadowed the coming events. And so they start paying keener attention to the details, so much keenness that they do the work of world building. The author certainly helps, but it's the reader who does the heavy lifting. That is tangentry at its best. If it improves the story to make half the tangents serve an important function, let's make all of them important. Foreshadow something, reveal a secret. They don't have to be tangents at all. Now I find the story boring and inhumane again. Its leanness has made it unpalatable. The end. Me. All right, that was number 69, and my ode to fantasy tangents, my fondness of them. Most of these, not maybe most, many of these journals you'll find if you read or listen are about storytelling and story structure. And this is just one more that's really in its spirit about story structure, but it doesn't have to be a novel, or a short story or the written word or whatever to have story. Everywhere you look is stories. Everywhere you sense it. I mean, I don't know if you can smell a story, maybe you can, but like here, everywhere you hear, you just listen to songs. And I mean, even they're like 4 minutes, 3 minutes, like maybe it's 7 minutes, whatever, if it's like Led Zeppelin or something. But there's a real, like listen to a song by like a songwriter, like a real song by a composer or something. And there's a story that's told. There's like rising and falling action through manipulation, deliberate manipulation of volume and tempo and tones and there's like conflict and resolution. There's like dissonant notes, and then those notes like the Simpsons. Hey, everyone knows that the simp. That's I sang it badly, but that's a tritone. That's a horrible pairing. Not just because of my horrible voice. That's not a good musical pairing. But then it resolves. Sons, so you end up with this resolution of tension. And so in all of these, in any good song, there's like emotional chaperoning that it's only a few minutes or more or whatever, but it takes you on this journey that feels whole. Um, I have a song in my head at that moment. And so any song will sort of do, but and I'm not saying this is the best story ever told. This is just like what's in my head right now. Is Foo Fighters? I'm pretty sure everyone knows who that is. But it's a song Everlong, and a specific performance. It's a Wembley Stadium performance. I think it's 2008. You can find it online, and it begins and it's very mellow. It's like almost the whole song is really mellow. There are these moments of augmented intensity through, again, like manipulation of timbre, kind of. And pacing and volume, and then it returns to mellow. But like every second that goes by, you know that you're another second closer to the Act 3 finale, which you know is coming. I mean, that is coming. You're aware of it, and you're just getting closer and closer. So it feels like there's movement. You're making progress. And then when Act 3 does finally arrive, it's a proper climax. I mean, it's like powerful and bursty, but then it ends, and it kind of quickly, it's brief, and then it resolves, and the story is whole, it's complete. Um, and throughout this narrative structure, not every note is supporting another note. Not every word and little piece of the song is like a load-bearing beam. It would take away from the song if that were the case. There are moments of flair for flair's sake, and that is essential to the emotional connection. Feel like I feel like everything I'm saying is going to really connect to people who are on drugs. It's going to sound like profound to people who are currently not sober. I think for everyone who is sober, what I'm saying is boring, and you like me to just, end this. And so I'm going to end now, whatever your mindset is. You're sober, you're on something. I hope that your day is that not every verb is a scripted agenda item. That you have like flairful tangents during the course of your day, little moments of unexpected, little surprises of beauty, and that sort of colors the rest of your whatever day it is. That is my hope for you, and I'll see you next time.